All right, everyone, welcome back to Strand A of SciAxis 2021. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Zuby Onwuta, who is a Harvard MIT trained innovator, as well as one of our Astro Access ambassadors, who you may have seen on yesterday's Flight 1 panel. Today, I'm really excited to hear from Zuby and his work on the story of Think and Zoom brain control technology for blind assistive tech. Zuby, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, and it's a pleasure to be here with you and with all of the other attendees. Good morning from Austin, Texas. It's a bit chilly, but it's bright and sunny, so no complaints. I hope everybody's doing well as well.
Amazing. Whenever you're ready, feel free to go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm Zuby Onwuta. I am wearing a dark colored t-shirt. I have dark skin. I'm wearing dark rimmed glasses, and my hair is receding a little bit. So this morning, the title is the story of Think and Zoom brain control for blind assistive tech. But quite frankly, I just wanted to have a conversation with each and every one of you, and I hope that's okay. This is Strand A. So this is for the students. And this is for the educators. Well, I was once a blind student and I had to interact with a lot of educators. So I thank all those educators who find ways, right, to make sure that the student gets what they need in order to move the needle forward. And for the students, hey, I was once where you are, so don't worry, it will get better, okay? So here are some of the things that I wanted to cover today. And I don't know if you will be the facilitator. Perhaps if you can just help us by typing certain things in the chat. Will you be around?
Absolutely, I'm here.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Thanks so much, and appreciate it. So I don't have any slides. I didn't want to just make things complex, so we're just gonna have a conversation. Please feel free to, however is the method of asking questions. If you raise your hand, Anne will let me know because I have 30% vision. I don't see very well myself. Or you can put it in the chat and please let me know. Just feel free to interrupt at any time. So here are some of the things that I wanted to cover today is why, although it's technology, but there's a reason, there's a whole story behind why I created this technology, as well as I wanted to talk about some of the attributes that helped me come up with the technology. You'll hear things like hard work, discipline, grit, perseverance. These are things that actually helped me more than anything else. And then the last thing I wanted to make sure that I leave everybody with, and if you don't remember anything else, empowerment. I truly believe in the power of disabled innovators. I believe that the future of disability lies in disabled innovators. So if you don't remember anything else, know that it is time for us to empower our disabled youth to get them in technology, to get them to become technology innovators, inclusive innovators, and user innovators. And that will be the future. All right. And speaking of disabled innovators, here's a quiz, right? I'm going to ask of three names. And if you know any one of them, please just raise your hand or type in the chat and tell me what you know about them. The first one is Vincerf. And you can type it out, Vintcerf, Vincerf. And the next one is Chieko Asakawa, and that is Chieko, Chieko. Asakawa is spelled Asakawa, Chieko Asakawa. And the last one, certainly not the least, is Joshua, Joshua, Miele, Miele. So if anyone knows any one of these names, please just let us know what you know about them. Are we getting any responses, Anne?
Nothing yet.
Okay, well, that's not surprising. Most people don't know, but let me explain who they are. The first person is Vincerf. He's deaf, and that is what inspired or led him to co-invent the HTTP protocol. That's right. Without his protocol, we won't even be communicating today. And he invented that because he was looking for a way to communicate with his family. So every time you type in HTTP in the URL, remember it was co-invented by someone who's deaf, Vincerf. So look him up. He's still at Google and look up all of his work. And the next person is Chieko Asakawa. She's blind, and she's one of the pioneers of screen readers. So for those students that use screen readers, and I also use screen readers, right, like VoiceOver and other kinds of screen readers, it's a blind person who laid the groundwork for the early stages of the screen reader. So look her up, right? And then the next one is Joshua Milley. Josh has been blind since he was 4 years old, and he recently won what is called the Genius Award. That's right. A blind innovator won the MacArthur Foundation Genius Award. So Josh invented a tactile 3D map. So it's a web tool where if you're looking at a map, it makes it easy for blind people to use maps. And he also invented many other things. And he's at Amazon. So these are just three names of disabled people who are doing amazing work, leaders in technology and innovators. And remember, these people have been doing this for decades. And guess what? You're next, right? So always look for people like this to draw inspiration from. And that's what I mean by, if you don't remember anything else from this message, it's all about empowering the next generation of disabled people to come into tech and become leaders. So let's get into the why Thinking Zoom. So when I was growing up, while I was in primary school, I read a lot of books, but people didn't realize that I was a slow reader because I read a lot. And when I was reading, I would often read one character at a time. So right from primary school, I was already having vision problems, but there was no one around me who picked that up. I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know any better. And then when I went into secondary school, things got bad very fast. But my second year, I flunked math because I was having trouble seeing the board. So my vision had declined to that point. And, that exposed the problem. So of course, the very first reaction is go to see the optician, get a pair of glasses. Now, glasses are supposed to correct you back to normal vision, but mine never really corrected. Each year, I will have to go back and double up my prescription throughout high school. However, the underlying root problems were never really discovered. And then I left my home country of Nigeria right after high school, and I came to America. And I wanted to become a medical doctor. I started pre-med. I joined the US military. Now, when I took the college entrance exam, I scored average, but nobody knew why. Nobody even asked me why. Like, wait a minute, you read a lot, you're good. You like studying. So why did you score average? Nobody asked, but I only finished the math. That's why I scored average. The rest of the exam, I barely touched half of it because I always run out of time. So I already had low vision again. Nobody knew. Then I started at a junior college. It was small class sizes, about 30 students or 20 or even less. And so because it was that kind of environment, I had FaceTime with instructors. I picked my grades up again, dean's list, president's list. I was doing well again. And then I went into the military. That's when things went really, really south. Within 2 years, I went from 2040 to 2200, and I was diagnosed with Stargardt's macular dystrophy. I'm sure some of you may have heard of Stargardt's. It's a juvenile form of macular degeneration. And once you hit your 2200, you're supposed to plateau. You're not supposed to decline any further. So because I was now legally blind, and the military said, hey, we can't have you anymore. And that really, really crushed my dreams, and I had to abandon my medical studies. So by the age of 21, I was looking for plan C. And of all things, because I loved STEM from a very young age, I chose another career in STEM. I chose to study computer engineering. So I went in, and because I loved studying and I loved reading, I was doing well again. However, 2 years in, I flunked out of school. And this is not something that I actually share a lot, but I wanted to share it in this forum because it's filled with educators and it's filled with students. So I flunked out of school. It was triggered by a lecturer who refused to give me extra time during the finals. That was the trigger. And of course, I was experiencing, further vision loss, which shouldn't have been happening. But so for the educators out there, understand that it's very important, it's critical to the students that you accommodate them, especially during the final. I mean, this is the final, the end of the semester. So that was my story. I flunked out. I became homeless a little bit, but worked really hard. Fought my way back into school later on, and graduated. But that wasn't the end of the story. So again, Stargardt should have stopped at 2200, but I kept going back to these doctors and kept telling them, hey, something is wrong. But of course, they are doctors. They don't listen sometimes. And so I kept struggling and suffering through. And I started working my first full-time job. And within 2 years, I faced another bunch of vision decline. And this time around, I ended up at the School for the Blind. So I am one of those rare individuals who has gone from seeing very well to training at the School for the Blind, where you're covered with a blindfold. You don't see anything at all. Where I learned how to use the white cane, cook blind, screen reading with JAWS, etc. And I've now experienced everything in between, all manners of low vision as well. And so I completed my training at the School for the Blind, but still, the underlying problem still wasn't discovered. And so I finished that, went back to work, still kept struggling with the visual decline. And it wasn't until just about 9 years ago. So my first diagnosis was 98, and the second was 2012. Look at the number of years. And so after having gone through 300 eye care professionals and spending 2 weeks at one of the greatest medical institutions, Johns Hopkins, now we figure out that I actually have 3 genetic mutations. And please, you can type this in the chat, ABCA4 gene, 3 genetic mutations. And I share this because it's very important to understand what the person has. ABCA4. I'm not reading, picking up exactly what ABCA4. And it's really important to understand because, an example is if your car tire has one leak and you find that one leak, you can patch it up and, you can retain the air in it. But if it has multiple leaks, but you only find one and you only focus on fixing one, well, your tire can never really retain air. And so when I now discovered that I had these 3 mutations, 2 of them caused Stargardt, and the third one causes cone-rod dystrophy. You can also put this in the chat. Cone-rod is CONE-ROD, cone-rod dystrophy. That revealed why I was having all of these problems. I mean, I literally had 3 distinct eye disorders that were affecting my retina and, destroying the retina and the macula. And as a result, my vision kept declining, kept fluctuating, and I never had any stability in vision. And so after that, a short while after that, I had to actually leave my engineering job because it was too difficult. So I shared the story with all these details because that's the reason why I created the technology. The technology was created to respond to all of the different situations that kept coming up in my life where I was never sure of what will come up the next day. I didn't know what I was going to see. Every time I had to keep adjusting my zoom. Every time, sometimes I will even take away the zoom and now turn on screen reading. So I wasn't never really sure of anything. And now for those who use either magnification or screen reading, you know very well that you either have to contend with hand holding or you have to contend with manual operation, right? And so, I will look at my peers and, being a computer engineer and a software engineer who will stay up in the lab all night long typing code. And so typing code and working on, software, it's already difficult in itself. But for me, I have to go through the extra stuff of having to deal with assistive tech. My peers weren't dealing with that. And so I really, really dug deep into myself to figure out a way to remove the hand holding, to remove the manual operation, And that's how I came up with using brain control to control blind assistive technology. And so the technology, in simple terms, allows you to simply think and control your blind assistive tech. And that's where the name Think and Zoom comes from. So you can look, think, and zoom in to see better. And how it works is this. You wear a brain-computer interface sensor, and these sensors are just on the outside of your head, and they pick up brainwave signals from your cranium. And these brainwave signals are then read by the Think and Zoom application software. And whenever they detect certain signals coming from your brain, they leverage that to do some work. So the work could be either magnification, whether it's going to be on your smart tablet or your smart glass or your smartphone, or it can turn on screen reading, or it can even play a game. There's a game that we've created out of it called the Kenty Freebird game, which won an award at Apple, a worldwide developer conference. So some of the things that really helped me throughout all the ups and downs are the things I learned from the people who raised me. I was raised by my grandmother, and she taught me a lot about discipline. Wake up early, do your homework, do your bed. And of course, when I was growing up, all those things sort of annoyed me, but I can tell you that I rely on all those examples that she set for me even till this day. So I relied a lot on discipline. And for my dad, he taught me a lot about hard work. Always do your homework. Make sure you understand what the lesson is all about. Study hard. So hard work, I give him a lot of credit for that. And my uncle taught me a lot about grit and perseverance. Said, it's not always going to be 70 and sunny every day. There'll be days where there'll be, you'll be happy, and there'll be ups, and there'll be days where it will be very, very tough. But you have to be resilient. You have to just see it through. You have to possess a lot of grit and perseverance. And these are the attributes, and I credit these attributes to these people who raised me. These are the attributes that really helped me to be able to develop this technology. So I'm going to pause. I don't know if there are questions. I see a lot of red. Please, are there any questions in the chat?
I have no questions in the chat yet.
Okay, awesome. And again, folks, please feel free to stop me at any point and ask me any questions. And so circling back to how I began, that this is not just, a story about a piece of technology, but it's really about empowering the next generation of disabled folks to become leaders in STEM, leaders in technology. And that if we are able to do that, then we will find those folks who will create those accessible tools that millions and millions of other disabled people can use in earning or learning, meaning in whether you're in the workforce or whether you're in education. And some of today's current innovators include Yuma the cow. I think Yuma is speaking right in this conference. And Yuma is a blind artificial intelligence engineer. And he's working on this amazing software application that's going to let even blind people to discover new stars and new planets. I mean, how amazing is that? An accessible astronomy application, right? And I am looking forward to using it one day. And another innovator I really have to talk about is Mona Minkara. Mona is one of the 12 ambassadors in Astro Access, and I was on the flight with her. So Mona is blind, but Mona has a PhD in chemistry, and she teaches bioengineering at Northeastern University. Go figure, right? And not only that, she's also working on a company that's going to make STEM accessible to blind students. I think it's called Sensible Designs, right? And so these are just two, and there are so many others. I'm always very inspired by these creators like Marx from the Philippines. He's a blind engineer, and he created these nice pair of glasses that you can just wear. And while you're doing O&M, whenever it detects obstacles, it will just vibrate to let you know that you're about to walk into an obstacle. I mean, how amazing is that, right? And you can find more stories like this at futureofdisability.global, futureofdisability.global. So I'm going to pause here to just give some time for the audience to ask questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Zuby. We do have a few questions for you. One is from Adrian, who asks, are you working with neuroscientists?
Yes, Adrian, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to raise a ton of money. So I have been training myself on neuroscience. So I've become a neuroscience researcher, and I have actually spoken at places like Singularity University Exponential Medicine, and I'm a deep tech fellow. So in the future, yes, I will have to work with a neuroscience scientist, but right now I'm actually doing my own neuroscience training. Thanks so much for that question.
Great. And the next question asks, can you tell us more about how exactly the technology works?
Sure. So inside of our cranium, and all of us, we have this. We have about 80 billion different neurons. These neurons are at the root of our thoughts, emotions, our behavior. It controls every single thing that we do. Monitors your heart rate, your breath, everything that you do, right? Now they communicate with each other via electrical impulses, right? And so by using sensors, if you think of a thermometer reads the internal temperature of your body. So by using sensors that can read these brain waves, we can harness them to try to figure out what the person is thinking and leverage that to do work. Right now, I think in Zoom, what we've done is we've broken the ground. So we've developed the proof of concept. So you can see the demos at thinkandzoom.com. So right now it's still very early stage, but in the future, what we actually want to achieve is make it as easy as possible for you to just wear a simple headband that can control your magnifier, wherever it is, whether it's your CCTV, your laptop, your hand, whatever your magnifier is, or your screen reader. Think of move to next paragraph and your screen reader moves to next paragraph. So that's our goal. Thanks so much for your question.
Thank you. And one question I have for you, Zuby, can you tell our attendees more about exactly what you did with this technology on our flight last month? So during the Astra Access parabolic flight, you mentioned yesterday during the panel that you were wearing this and seeing if it works in microgravity. Can you tell us more about that experience and what you discovered?
Sure. Yeah. So the technology relies on the human to do thinking, right? And so if you think about it, for you to think, you have to focus a little bit, concentrate, pay attention. If you're being distracted, you may not do a very good job of focusing on paying attention. And so for the flight, I wanted to just figure out, will it work in this environment? And mind you, I had never been on a zero gravity flight. I had never experienced Martian or lunar or zero gravity. So the goal was a stretch goal to just figure out, hey, what will it be like to try to use brainwave technology to control an electronic device while floating around? And I can report to you that I was pleasantly surprised that it worked. It really, really worked. And so, yeah, I wore the brainwave reader and I used it to play the Kenti game. And, I think there's a photo out there of me holding the phone and just using my brainwave to move the bird up the cage. It was just amazing because I didn't even expect that in that kind of an environment that I will be able to, channel all my abilities to focus. So what that really tells me is that this is a good approach where no longer will blind people or even disabled people have to put in so much effort to control their assistive tech. Observe somebody that's in a wheelchair, all of that energy to move the wheel. Well, in the future, all they have to do is wear a wearable around their head and just think, and the wheelchair will be moving. So I think the future looks bright.
Thank you. Next question here for you is, as I understand, this technology is very recent. Do you have a general idea of how long it will take to become available to the public?
That is a question I really cannot answer right now. And part of the reason is because there isn't really a ton of awareness or funding or support for emerging technology when it comes to people with disabilities. If you look at the technology landscape in general for disability, you will notice it's, I'd say, lagging behind by 20 years when compared to other areas. However, the good news is when I started back in 2015, when I I designed it in 2012 and nobody understood what I was talking about. So I put the prototype in 2015 and people said, oh, is this what you're talking about? And back then there were probably 2 or 3 companies that did mobile brainwave readers. But now there are about 10 of them, right? And so there are now emerging other emerging pieces of technologies that leverage neurotechnology. So I think the area is advancing. So I'm only hoping that it will get faster for us that are in the disability space. I think one huge company is Facebook. They partnered with UC San Francisco. They were able to convert the thoughts of a person that was paralyzed. Whatever word they were thinking of, they could write it on the screen at about 90% accuracy. I mean, think about that. Facebook, they have a ton of money, right? And they did this work. And now they're trying to pioneer the use of neurotechnology in muscles. It's called EMG, electromyography, I think, to play virtual reality games. So these are the people that have all the money in the world, right? And the further they democratize it, we'll be watching them to figure out what we can grab to bring into the disability space. Great question. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next question is from Carmen, who says, how much time does it take to learn to use this technology?
It depends on the individual. I've been to conferences where people put it on and within 1 minute, they get it. While I was in San Francisco, no, was it San Francisco? No, Long Beach for Astro Access. One of our ambassadors, Eric, he tried it in a minute, he got it. We have another ambassador, Mona, took her about 2 or 3 minutes. And then we have astronaut Katie, took her about 4 minutes. So it just varies, but it's not like it doesn't take about a day. It takes people about, at the most, 10 to 20 minutes and they'll get it.
Fantastic, thank you. And next up, Adrian says, how about sending your tech to be tested on the International Space Station?
Thank you so much, Adrian, for that question. Earlier this year, I participated in a Spacecom Accelerator. And the goal was, that's right, to send that technology up to the space station because certain astronauts, after they spent a lot of time in space, start experiencing vision loss because there's a fluid, a cranial fluid that now moves away from where it's supposed to be and lodges behind the retina because of low gravity and starts impacting the retina and causing them visual loss. However, right now, the people that fund these programs don't have a ton of budget for the health sector. But things could change in the future as more and more people are going into space and we're thinking of Mars, which is going to be like a 6 months to 9 months journey. Perhaps there'll be a bigger budget, but thanks so much. It's like, wow, you guys are really, really bringing amazing questions. Thanks so much for that.
Thank you. And that is the last question I have here in the chat. If anyone else has any, feel free to ask them in the Q&A or to ask them out loud. But otherwise, Zuby, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today and for sharing your work with all of our conference attendees.
Thank you so much. And guys, remember, it's not always going to be sunny and 70, but always, always look, think, and zoom into your better, brighter future. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Zuby. We really appreciate that.